It is a lovely Saturday morning. So beautiful here. I spent the entire week in New England just past week, and it was cold. And I still have like basically my New England wardrobe. I've like carried it over to the desert with me, and I carried it back here to the south with me. And like it was highly appropriate when I lived in New England, but it's like not appropriate in either of those locations that I lived in. So like the past, I don't know, 4 years or so, like I haven't really had clothes that were like super appropriate. I like hold on to like all of my winter stuff. I'm literally wearing merino wool today. Like the smart wool kind of thing, just to like use it. Funny enough, it's like actually not too hot in the summertime and not too cold in the winter. I kind of love how materials do that. But anyways, this video is not about merino wool. It is not about the cold or hot that my temperatures that I live in. It is about what happened, as it always is. So I think what I'm trying to say is I will always be a New England girl at heart, and I will just have to suffer through wherever I am in hopes of eventually getting back to the climate which I am most acclimated to. But it's hot here. It's like 90 something, and I spent like the week in New England where it was like definitely 50 at least, and always rainy, but I loved it. This week I'm going to talk to you about kind of like an update about everything, really. I haven't really been touching upon like the updates on my project, the updates on my like, you know, career thing, and then, you know, I've mostly just been talking about what has been the forefront of my mind, is trying to figure out how boys work, men work. So that's been kind of clogging up a lot of my videos, but like I still have some updates on that. Just know that like that's not all I think about, that's not all I deal with, and like I still in the background I'm doing my normal life with my normal goals. I'm just not, you know, choosing to talk about that as a specific video. But this time I wanted to kind of just update you on a little bit of everything, and then to kind of I don't know if I'm gonna change the way I present my information to you, because just yesterday I tried to make this update video one day after I got back from my vacation. I was just a little bit too tired, and I decided to redo it today. So here we are. But within that time frame of one day, so much stuff can happen with dating that like it might, things that I talked about the day before that I had so figured out. I always think I have things so figured out, and then like actual life happens. It didn't age well. And like the method in which I like deliver these things, it's kind of like a little bit set in stone because it's a video. People can reference that back. People remember that I said that. It's not like talking with my friend and like, you know, it's not like we're saying things in passing, like we actually do mean them at the time. But like I think that there's a better understanding of like things are in flux and things can change, and like it's just an idea at the time based upon what you know at the time. And you know, the little updates happen between, you know, the friends. Like something will happen, I'll be like, oh my god, this happened, and then she'll be updated and she'll know just that whatever I said the last time I talked with her about whatever the situation was, it needs to be updated in her mind too. But like that doesn't really happen here. Like what I say is a little bit set in stone, almost as if it's like written down forever. And so I kind of look a little bit stupid sometimes because I have these theories and these strategies based upon what I think is actual reality, and then actual reality comes and faces me like the next week or something, and it, you know, it busts that theory, or you know, it shows me a different way of thinking. And it's like, you know, if I don't talk about every single thing, I kind of look a little stupid, and I'm not actually too worried about looking stupid. I'm just kind of, I want you to understand that the process that you're seeing is just not finished yet, I guess. And so while I think I have everything figured out, always take what I say. Like I've said this a few times, always take what I say with a grain of salt, and work with it in your mind, and work with it with what you know about people and what you know about life. And maybe you can kind of even see where I am in the process. Right? Like the process of figuring things out. Maybe you've got stuff figured out way past me, and I love that for you. But I try to give enough information so that you will understand my mindset and why it is the way it is. And that's all I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to give you a full explanation of how people work or how I work. It's like always changing and moving. And sometimes I don't even understand why until new light comes about. So anyways, we'll talk about that at the end, like the dating updates, but I wanted to kind of talk to you about what my time was like at home and like what my life has been like as far as like my career and stuff. So I went home on Sunday. I flew, and it was like a new route that is direct, and I loved it. Usually I have to trade planes in a big hub, and I didn't really have to do that, and it was like just so great. I really hate planes. I really hate being on there for a long time. Cramps my style, like actually. So while I'm lucky that I don't have to drive, and while I'm lucky that I do get to travel, I just don't enjoy it that much. And I'm super happy that the process is just more enjoyable, getting there, getting back to home, and it just makes the rest of everything enjoyable. I don't know if you've ever had like a red eye to somewhere and then you're just kind of like always playing catch up. So it's kind of like that, especially if you don't sleep well outside of your house. Like I don't really sleep well when I go home. There's never really a comfortable place to sleep yet, and that's just kind of the way it is. I'll explain a little bit, but I was happy that I was able to travel well this time. It was only a 2-hour flight, and everything was smooth and worked out, and it was just great. So I'm just super happy that it didn't take me 2 days to get there. I didn't have to drive. It was like really non-stressful, and I just think that that set the tone for how my trip was. I think I've talked to you enough times about, you know, how my trip and going home is usually for me. It's not usually a pleasant experience, because home reminds me of what's great about home, but also what's sad about home. And it kind of like reminds me like why I always leave it. But it also at the same time makes me sad that I have to leave it, because I belong and I belong there, but I don't. You know, we've talked about that. So this time I was not cranky because I got enough sleep and I had a great travel, and it was just so nice. So I spent a lot of time with my dad, and I was basically wanting to see what his empire had built. It's so nice. I think my dad has worked his whole life to come to this point in time in his experience level and his career and his skills and his knowledge of how to start a home from scratch. When he was younger than me, actually, his dad, my grandpa, gave him a little thing of land, and he built his first house. That's where my sister and I lived before we moved to the city, because my mom wanted to live kind of more in a city instead of kind of a little bit out in the boonies. But my grandpa had gave him a little place of land. My dad had built a house that didn't really have too much like upgraded amenities. It was very homegrown-y kind of thing. It was like, I think my dad like mustered together like some water pipes that went into or from the stream. Like it was kind of like that. It was not like, you know, properly done. It was just kind of like off the cuff, kind of living off the grid sort of deal. But it was my dad's house, and it was my dad's idea, and it was like very early in his stage of being a carpenter. And it was like he was building something for his family, and it was on his own, but it was nice. It was like something that he enjoyed doing. And I don't remember that house actually. I think I only spent like maybe 1 or 2 years before we moved to the bigger house in the city. City, relative term. City, you'll have to remember, is very rural, meaning like it went from like no neighbors around for like a mile or so to like our neighbors like right there on all 4 sides. But it's still, the population of the city is like less than a couple of thousand. Like it's very small still. But anyways, my mom wasn't really, you know, live off the land kind of girl. She was more like I don't know, a little bit more modern than that, but my dad was just like, grew up poor on a farm, and he just kind of like, you know, knew how to use his resources the best. So that was, you know, I always remember that my dad really hated having to sell that house, and he was really sad about it. And I think he'd always been wanting to like live in a house that he'd built by himself, for his family since then. And it just hasn't happened like that for whatever reason. And so years and years and years later, like I'm 39 years old, and I think the last time that we lived there, I was maybe under 3. So quite a long time actually, that he hasn't really kind of met his wants and needs with that kind of goal in his life again. So my dad has had all that time to build houses and to build things and to, you know, work with people and to find out how things work on a bigger, larger scale with more resources than he had when he was younger. And he's been training his whole life for this. And so about last year, he bought a plot of land, and then he bought another plot of land. And so we've got about 20 acres back home that was basically very woodsy in the middle of basically nowhere, but well located for what it was. And it was nice land. It had a lot of trees that we could harvest. And my dad had been like, you know, using his skills for like the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years. He'd been doing that, cutting wood, getting it sawn, getting it planed, making houses out of the resources that were already kind of like available. So I think it's kind of nice to like build houses and stuff like that from like the land, use the land in like all the ways that you can. So I like that. But my dad has been using all those skills. Like I wouldn't know how to do that. Like I wouldn't know anything at all about how to do that. And so my visit back home was to visit the land. In the fall, a little bit of phase 1 was done, and then you had to stop because wintertime and like the ground freezes and it's just too cold to work outside. Like the winters are like brutal there. So we had to wait a little bit until past spring when the land thawed out and like it got warm enough and dry enough to like bring heavy machinery in. And they cut and created about a 2-acre space for the land. And phase 1 is really about building a home that we can create and furnish up to code and like make it really nice and have somebody live there. And then with the sale of that home down the road on a different plot of land, we'll create our forever home. So it's really exciting to see my dad's ideas and hopes and dreams and skills all come together at the pinnacle of like what he's good at. And it's like, I really love when people excel. I really love when people go after their dreams. I really love when people create things and like make it from their brain into reality. Like I really love that. And it's been hard for me as a child to like see like, you know, the hopes of my dad like kind of like crushed most of his life, right? But to like have it be reignited later on in life when, you know, circumstances changed or whatever for him to be able to do this. So it's just nice to see somebody like live up to their potential this way as far as like what they've been wanting to do and gaining the skills the whole entire time to do it. So I took video of the land it's cleared right now, and when I was up like today, actually I think they're starting actual work on that building of the house. But when I visited about a week ago, there was just a bunch of cleared land, and it takes so long to clear all that land, and they had to remove stumps and they had to get rid of the stumps. There was, I guess, so many piles of stumps, and you can't burn them because they're full of dirt, and dirt doesn't really burn. So they had to do something with it. And there's always all these like little schemes to get rid of things. And there's some farmer that knows somebody and blah, blah, blah. So it's always like interworkings of like small communities that come together that are very scrappy and thrifty and creative. And, you know, they all like kind of like support each other or whatever. So it's sort of nice, but it's like an acquired kind of like rural community skill thing that I just don't really have anymore, because I've never really been part of that. But my dad's been immersed in that for like, you know, his whole life. He did go away and like live in Florida and live in New York City, and he had like a business, so he knows what city people are like, but he always returned home. He always returned home. So I think his skills that he's acquired in his life actually fit the community in which he lives. And it's just nice to see his skills and his resources all play together into this thing that's coming together. It's really great. So the land was cleared as far as it was going to go. The driveways were put in. That was a fiasco, but it turned out wonderful. There was a home kind of being built and like pegged out. And so you'll see that in the video that I show you, but most of the time it was just kind of like seeing what he's done and kind of like being a part of the process. My part is mostly like the inside, because my dad, as I said, is like really good at like those types of things, like getting the sewer people and getting the right people to like put in the correct like wattage for, you know, what we need as far as electricity, and, you know, getting permits and blah blah blah, because he's been doing this his whole life and I have no idea how to do any of that. So you know, he does what he does and he's good at what he does, and then he lets me do what I'm good at. So I helped him. We went out to breakfast, and I always, for whatever reason, I'm always next to water when I go home. I'm such a Pisces, but I'm always drawn to water. And we ate breakfast at this nice restaurant. I don't want to say nice, but we ate breakfast at his favorite diner. I'm not really a diner girl, but it was actually surprisingly good. And it was above this river, this lovely river. So it just felt really nice and homey when I went to go visit him, and we like hit his like hot spots. Kind of like what happened when I came here. We like hit my hot spots, my like little haunts that I found. And you know, he has a routine back home, so I just kind of like visited his routine and just kind of got to see what his life has been like. And so we went to the place that he has breakfast every day there. And we ate by the river. It was so nice. Then we went to Home Depot, and I was able to pick out some countertops. We had a little discussion about what natural stone versus some sort of man-made concoction would be, and so I think you see a lot of me pointing to certain things in the video, but I don't think I actually show you like what I actually ended up on, but you kind of get the idea. We were shopping for countertops and we were talking about it, and I was basically just trying to tell my dad about the things that I'd learned about interior design, mostly from Nick Lewis actually. If you've ever watched Nick Lewis, he is an amazing little feisty Canadian guy that like has a lot of hot takes on interior design, but he has a lot of good structural ideas and like how to make things like classic and like not date. And so for a house that like we're trying to flip, I wanted the interior to be appealing, obviously, to people, and to be like modern, and to like not accidentally put in like very passe home decor just because it was easy or it was on sale or like whatever. So like my dad doesn't know like what is popular or what is the upcoming trend, and I barely even know, but I do know some things. When we were at Home Depot, I was kind of explaining to my dad that we were gonna try to pick fixed elements that would just always be classic. So I think a lot of wood, natural stones, natural materials, brass, nickel, kind of things like that. Not too trendy of things, but things that kind of cycle in and out. They're always classic, always nice. The fixed elements, the things that we're gonna spend the most money on that are harder to renovate later because they're just expensive to, you know, take out and replace, to really make a good choice on those things so that the person that lives there is just going to love them for a long time and enjoy the investment that they made into that home. So trying to pick non-offensive things that will just age like a fine glass of wine. That's what I was doing. So I steered clear of certain things like sliding barnyard doors. My dad wanted to put them in and I was like, no. If you've ever watched Nick's videos, you would know what a catastrophe that would have been. Because he's like, oh, they're just really easy to put in. And it's like the labor that I have to pay, like the guy would be like minimal because it's like just very easy. And I just stated all the things that Nick Lewis always states about barnyard doors. I'm just like, no. If I learned one thing from his videos, I can't let you buy those. So it was kind of fun to take what I've learned and put it to the test a little bit and kind of share my knowledge about the interior with my dad. And he's like, oh, okay, we'll do what you want. I was like, great. I let him do what he wants. He lets me do what I want. It's kind of like the perfect match. So once we decided on things in Home Depot, I think I spent a lot of time with my friends, and I got to see Renee, and it was so, so lovely. And it's just like, I don't get a lot of like FaceTime with the people that I love because I just live so far away from them. And it's like nice to actually see them in person. And so to get hugs from them, they give the best hugs. And me as a person that doesn't really get a lot of hugs, I think that's kind of like why I date the way I date sometimes. We'll get into that, but just remember that little nugget. But hugs were really important to me, and I just loved spending the day with Renee. She helped me get a lot of stuff that would make my dad's living situation much more comfortable. I really wanted to do that by the time that I left. I really wanted to upgrade my dad's living like situation. He just barely bought like a camper until like the house is built, so he is living on the land but in like a brand new camper, and we had to upgrade the mattress so we could sleep better. And like these are things that he wouldn't do for himself, but like I see where you can improve with just a little bit of funds. And so I took his funds and I made him a little bit more comfortable, and he was just like very thankful that I took those little moments to make lasting improvements after I left. So anyways, that's what we did when I went to go see Renee. And then we ate by the water, always the water. So we ate by the water at this lovely restaurant that's so nostalgic for Renee and I. We had a Christmas Eve dinner there one time, and it was just so nice. I got to spend the whole day with her, just like shooting the shit and like going around and just talking. It was like lovely. I cried so hard when I left. I was like, oh my God. Like one day is like not enough. One day is not enough to see these people, but I was just thankful that I got to spend that one day. And then I wanted to, like, I did a lot of things that were like very nostalgic for me. Every single like memory that I have of going home always literally involves the water. So I went to visit my favorite glacial lake, and I had a little bit of time before I was gonna see my friend Abigail, my bestie Abby. And I spent the morning eating breakfast on a rock between the two mountains on either side, and I just watched the water, and it was just lovely. It was just lovely to be able to like spend that time by myself, but also to combine it with people that I loved. So I just ate my breakfast kind of spontaneously on this rock and I just watched the world go by, and it was just the most peaceful thing ever. There was no one else at the beach at that time, and so it was just so nice. So again, the water, but that particular lake is like my favorite, exactly favorite place in the world. And if I don't get to visit it when I go home, it's like such a heavy thing on my heart. I don't know why, I'm like always so drawn to that place. So anyways, I love being able to visit that. And coincidentally, that is where basically Abigail lives. And so it was just nice to be able to see her and her family and what she's doing. And it's just nice to visit like other people's worlds and see what they've got going on and see what they've got cooking up in the time that I've last seen them and seen their progress. And just to like listen to their hopes and dreams about what they're doing, and you know, just to see how everything is playing out while I'm gone. So I got to see her life, and it's just so nice. So I had lots and lots of happy moments of water this trip. So anyways, it was like that. It was just really nice. I didn't sleep very well, but I'll sleep when I'm dead, I guess. When I came home, I was like so exhausted. I slept 10 hours. But something kind of exciting happened right before I boarded my plane to come back home. Unexpected, actually. So what I've come to expect from the ghost of my past dating life is that eventually they'll just come back. So most of the time, like once somebody ghosts me, I just like kind of accept it. I take the hint and I just kind of like move on. I don't really like blow up at them or like do anything that's like calling them out. I just kind of see that it's happening because it's happened so many times. I see that it's happening, I take the hint, and then I just kind of like move on. But you know, I don't really do too much after that. And so I gain my theory on what happened based upon what I think that happened, and it's never really actually what was the cause of the ghosting, is what I'm learning. So anyways, the guy that I had the date with, the cute date or whatever, and then he ghosted me. He came back like right before I boarded my plane. I was like, wow, what a cliffhanger. So anyways, that's been kind of interesting because it gave me insight into yet another example of why guys have been ghosting me lately. And it also, again, had nothing to do with me. So the first time, the guy that I was super into in December, that came back twice, ghosted me twice. I think he's currently on the third ghosting or whatever. Like, he's just whatever. We don't really care too much about that situation, but just so you know, he's come back and forth and come back and forth. And the first time he ghosted me, it hurt me a lot because I just thought that he was like, you know, something special for me as far as like what I wanted to experience with somebody. And I never thought that I could get it again. But I've since like proved to myself that that's not right and that's not correct. And so it like, his ghosting doesn't really hurt. His continued ghosting or coming and goings doesn't really hurt as much because I don't really hold that as truth anymore, because I've learned that I hold some power. The power didn't come from him, the power came from me. So I've already like, that theory and that realization aged completely fine. The thing that I learned was that he had an insecurity, and his insecurity prevented him from seeing me or wanting to see me. And then he would like kind of like mull on it for a while, and then he'd come back once he gave himself a little bit of a pep talk or whatever, and he got some courage to try again or whatever, and that's how that happened. So that was one instance where a guy's insecurities about how he felt about our dynamic or whatever, and like kind of interfered with him spending time with me. So I went on that date where I thought it was cute, but I thought it was like, oh, maybe you're just like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And like, you're just like the rest of these Tinder guys, except for you were hiding behind the guise of like, you're not like that. And so I thought originally that he was kind of just like everybody else, but he came back before I went on the plane and he kind of told me what his deal was. And he also told me that he had insecurities about himself in terms of like how he related to, you know, dating me or, you know, seeing me. And it kind of had nothing really to do with how much or little he liked me or not. It was about how he felt about himself. And they both, what is similar, I learned, is that they both took themselves out of the equation before they were able to be rejected by me. Like, they just took it upon themselves to like reject themselves. They didn't want to, I guess they didn't want to like have to deal with hurt later once I was disappointed. They were preventing that and just taking themselves out of the game. And so that's what the whole ghosting thing was for both of them. But then they'd like go and like kind of, you know, do their own thing, especially after I didn't like really say anything too much about the ghosting. Like, I didn't really get too like mad about it or whatever. I was just like, okay, this is what's happening, and I just let the process happen. And I'm not saying that this is great, and I'm not saying that this equals like a good turn of events. I'm just saying that like the ghosting is not usually what you think it is. It's like because of how I was understanding things based upon the information I had at the time, I could only surmise that they just didn't like me. And it's kind of hasn't really been the case that way yet, like unless they're lying. But I think their explanations of why they ghosted was rooted in such vulnerability that I don't think that they would lie about how they explained why they went away. So they were both just taking themselves out of the game for different reasons. When it came to how it related to, you know, seeing me, and they just decided to stop it before it got too involved, and so they just ghosted. A ghosting is kind of like a metaphorical closed door, like I've said, and a full rejection is like an actual closed door. There's nothing metaphorical about it. And so I think a full rejection would be like if they didn't like me, like if they didn't like how I was, or you know, how I am, or what I look like, or whatever, then they would full reject me. I think I have to understand stuff about ghosting is that I think people just don't know how to act, and don't know how to feel, and don't know how to be when they feel insecure, or when something makes them feel uncomfortable, and so they just don't want to deal with it, and so they just don't. So I think I have to remember that, and to give people, I guess, maybe more patience to just see how things are going to work out. So that's kind of like what I'm learning. I think that ghosting is more than just like, you know, something that happens to me. I think that's why the ghosting video that I made originally, when that the ghost guy ghosted me for, I think, the second time, and I made that video, and it kind of got popular relative to my channel. Kind of got popular and a little bit more widespread, because I think ghosting happens to a lot of people, and I think it's just part of society now. And I think the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I want you to maybe understand that if this is happening to you, don't immediately blame yourself, or to feel like it's easy to go feel bad, and it's easy to grasp onto conclusions that this person must be an asshole. They could be an asshole, but maybe the ghosting is not the main reason why they're an asshole. Like, you know, they could still be a good person, just not really know how to communicate well. Like, let's just face it, guys don't really communicate on like an emotional level the same way that girls communicate with each other. I've had so many guys like talk to me on Tinder about personal things that they just like couldn't tell people in general. And like, because I like to talk to people, and I know that you know this, but I want to reiterate that, because it's like, it's the whole experience is different for guys, and I'm learning that. I'm not giving them an excuse, and I don't love that they ghost, and obviously women ghost too, it's not just guys. But I think the more that it happens in society, like, oh, I got ghosted by this girl, I can do it to the next guy, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like this almost dirty little thing that people just kind of perpetuate. So anyways, I think that I was talking to a lot of guys, and I would just ask them questions about their lives, and they're like, just nobody really asked me things about my life like this. Like, we would just talk about, you know, what are your goals for things? Like, what is the thing that makes you the most happy? And it's like, well, I've been married for like a long time and recently divorced or whatever, and like, you know, my friends don't really ask me these things, and like the people that I'm really closest don't really ask me these things, so I don't really know how to answer that, because I don't really have conversations like this. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad. So I think that that's just one example, but there's been many examples where like people were in between a rock and a hard place as far as what to do with their lives, and they didn't really have somebody that they can just trust to like talk about things. And so I feel like the world right now is kind of complicated, and there's a lot of macroeconomic things that are like trickling down to make it even more complicated. And I'm seeing there's a massive difference between dating before COVID and dating after COVID, especially towards this later 2024 kind of phase where, you know, the economy isn't really all that great, and people are actually getting pretty hit by things as far as reality checks, as far as, you know, maybe their life isn't as stable as they thought, and things are starting to kind of like crack. So obviously that's trickling down into the dating world, and it's like I'm seeing different things play out. And while I'm not necessarily loving it and I'm not really giving people grace, I'm just seeing how everything is going, and I'm putting together the pieces of like what I'm picking up. And I'm just like understanding that maybe guys don't actually have very good communication skills, because guys don't usually connect like that with other people. And maybe I just have to give them a little bit more grace. Like maybe they don't really know how to deal with difficult things emotionally, because maybe they've been checked out emotionally from, you know, big relationships, and they just don't know how to date. Maybe they just got recently single from COVID. A lot of divorces happened during COVID, and the last time that type of person dated was like 8 years ago, when it was a little bit different in the dating world. They just don't know how to like be right now. They don't know how to be newly single. They don't know how to be in the dating world, and they don't know how to be emotionally intelligent while this is all happening. And you know, like, this is maybe just the best that they can do, but they still have wants. Like, people are still, you know, human, and they still want intimacy, and they still want love and affection, but they just don't know how to give that in a healthy way back to somebody. I've had a lot of experience kind of just, you know, dating and being on my own since my last major relationship that kind of fucked me up. So I've had a lot of like time to just sit and like, you know, build my inner core and my, you know, my values and things. And like, I'm still, you know, not great at connecting with somebody, but I try really hard. And I still get it wrong. So I don't know. I'm not trying to give them excuses. I'm just trying to see it for what it is, that like, maybe people are not as nefarious as I think they are, or sometimes in situations where I think the ghosting was like so bad, and it's just me looking at the ghosting as like, this is just something that's happening, and it's not personal, and it's just like, there's more to it. Like, it's not just me that is insecurities when it comes to attaching myself to another human being in any sort of form. Like, they have theirs too. And that doesn't make everything right, but it just gives me a sense of understanding that like, it's not just that they didn't like me, or that I need to work on myself even more. Like, you know, the solution is not to completely uproot everything that I've done and throw it out and start over and get new strategies. It's just to like open my eyes to like, okay, what's actually happening? What's actually happening is that I think that there's a lot of people that are not healthy, and they still want what they want, and they're just trying to mix with the people that also want what they want. So my job is to see if they're unhealthy, if this is what they show, if they're a ghoster, if they're a bad communicator, if they're not emotionally intelligent at key moments. My part of this is to use my experience and my threshold and my skills of dealing with that. How much can I take? Do I want to take any of that? Like, is that a big red flag that I don't want to deal with? Can I just deal with that on a situational basis based upon the other good things that that person has? Do I need to give them a little bit more time to see if their rock can be polished to a gem? Maybe I can just see if they're a full rock and they're not going to be polished, right? Like, maybe I just need to get a little bit of skills of patience and see how things play out without trying to assume things about things. That's really hard, because when you're in hurt, like ghosting and the big area of like not knowing if somebody likes you or not right after a date, especially if they ghost you right after a date with no reason, that area of confusion, you want to almost get some sort of conclusion. And so the biggest and easiest conclusion would be to like conclude something that you usually fall back on as far as like your thought process, because you don't have any other information. Until they give you any of the information, you're not going to know what actually is the reason. And even when they give you information, I don't know if it's actually really valid. So anyways, this whole thing is hard, but I'm beginning to understand that it's way more complex than I ever thought it was, and I was trying to make it understandable to myself so that I felt better, but I think I need to just add a little bit more time into the mix of seeing how things go, because I have been seeing that people do come back That doesn't make it great, but I have been seeing that people do come back. So I'm beginning to learn that things are more complex, and I'm beginning to learn that there are alternative reasons why people ghost. And most of the time it has to do with their own insecurities and not really a reflection upon, you know, my own thing that I thought it was. So it's allowing me to see things from a different perspective. And I think that that's good, because I feel like people can get really locked into their theories and really locked into their ideas of how people work. But like mine, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to like show you how my mind is working at the time, given the information that I have. And so like I kind of want to remind you that things are a work in progress, and the things that I thought I knew about things can get rehauled into something else. And because I have more information now, or I have a different mindset now, and the mindset that I was so sure on, like it seems like I'm very sure on it, but like it's not that I'm so wishy-washy, that I'm allowing more things to penetrate, and I'm just trying to see more things. I'm allowing more external stuff come to my brain, and I'm allowing the theories to morph instead of having a fixed mindset about stuff. And the things that I say right now could be not right as well, right? Like this is just how I'm thinking about things currently as they are happening. I'm seeing that things that I've said do not age well. And I kind of want to explain that they don't age well because I didn't know really all that there was to know about stuff, because people are either liars or don't tell me. And so I have to just make up my own theories about what happened. And a lot of the time that's wrong. And I try my best to get really close to what actually is the truth. But, you know, I'm only as good as what I know. And I'm only as good as the information that I have at the time, especially when it comes to people and how they relate to me. As soon as you get your own experience, then you can kind of like create your own rules. For example, if you had different ideas of what was healthy or what was tolerable or where you wanted to go with dating, maybe you would disagree with me about giving patience to people that ghost you to see how they play out. Maybe that's just a complete red flag, that's a complete no, and like those kinds of people are time wasters, and they just eventually will never come around and give you what you want. And I understand that perspective, but like I'm not trying to have the best match so I can find the best husband that will eventually be the best father. Like that's not really what I'm trying to do. And I feel like I have kind of like a lot of time. My time can be wasted a little bit to see if this person is really someone I should pass over, or if I should take a second look beyond their inability to present well, right? Or to figure it out within a given sort of time. What I'm saying is I'm trying to be realistic. The reality is that maybe those top percentage people that are highest quality matches are not gonna wanna match with me, or not gonna like me. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But like that takes time to find that high quality match that wants to be with me as well. I'm just trying to like be happy and enjoy my life, even if I'm not with my perfect soulmate match. I'm just trying to enjoy time with people and to learn and experience about life. And if it's not the best, most perfect match, can I get something that's enjoyable from them anyways? Mostly. I just have to adjust how I think about them. And that's kind of like why I was telling you that I wanted to give maybe these ghosting people a kind of a second look to see if I just need to wait until they get a little bit more confidence, right? Like, I don't really know. They keep coming back, and they keep coming back for a reason. And I don't know if it's like a lost cause yet. I haven't ever like really thought about the ghosties like this. Usually I just kind of think that they're asshole people after doing this, and I don't really see the real reasons why they did it. And so I just think that they're horrible. They're actually you know, they're doing it for reasons that are very vulnerable that have nothing to do with me. And so maybe if I can see past that, I can see the real them, or they can show me the real them once we've like kind of established that whole thing. And maybe they're not as bad as I thought, but maybe they're just as bad as I thought. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to take what is actually being given to me and kind of, you know, make lemonade out of limes here. If that's possible, and maybe it's just not possible, and I'll see that, but I'm just going to give it the try that I think it deserves. Like clearly, if I feel like a person that I go out with is not safe for me emotionally or mentally, like they don't get a second try, right? It's very situational, like the whole try thing. But anyways, I kind of want to explain to you that I'm not putting my life on pause for these ghost people. I'm just like giving space in my head as far as like, should I give these people a second try? Meanwhile, I'm still doing my real life and I'm going on dates with other people. And I'm, you know, if they come back, they come back. I think it's important to kind of tell you that the way that I deal with these people is to kind of show them how vulnerability and good communication works. So I'm not playing the game where they ghost me, I ghost them, I ignore them, they ignore me. I'm giving them how I want to communicate back. I'm showing them what my communication style is, and it kind of looks different than theirs. And I'm giving them vulnerability, and I'm giving them clear communication and clear reassurance if that is even, you know, necessary. I'm not withholding. I'm just being authentic. I'm not trying to match their energy that way. I'm trying to just give off my authentic energy that way. And if they take it and learn from it, great. If they don't do anything with it, great too. Like, whatever. So I'm just trying to not perpetuate the problem. I'm trying to understand that there's a problem. It's bigger than me. It's like very normal in society, and I hate that, but it's bigger than me, and I'm just trying to give them instances where somebody treated them differently than how they normally would be treated after being ghosted, right? I'm trying to give them understanding and like not sympathy for like their clear lack of communication skills, but I'm trying to see that, like, hey, I see that you are maybe lacking here. This is what good communication looks like. This is what sharing vulnerability feels like as far as information, and this is what truth telling feels like. And I give them that, and they do what they want with it. So I think it's important not to play back into things. I think it's good to just be how I am still and not let that affect me if I want to continue on with these ghosty people, because I could see how like I'd want to like get revenge on them and just like make them fall in love with me, and then me ghost them and they can feel how it feels, right? Like I don't really want to do any of that. Like teach them a lesson. I feel like teaching them a lesson is just showing them what like something more healthy looks like instead, or more authentic looks like instead, or a good communication style looks like instead. So that's how I'm dealing with it. But I'm also not giving them a ton of my time. Like I'm not really taking it too seriously, and I'm not super invested in them because they've already ghosted me like once or twice, right? So it's like I still want to see if there's potential there. Because as I said, there's like limited people, limited matches, limited people that I'm excited about. They've proven to be exciting to me once upon a time. But if I'm being honest, every time they ghost, every time they go away, and it kind of breaks the connection. It severs the connection, the magical little connection that you have with somebody. It severs that for a while, and it's just almost impossible to get back if I'm being actually honest. So my level of excitement about these people are like at a 10% versus where it was at like a 90% before the ghosting. So I don't know. I don't know if it's actually even a good idea to do this, but this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it, because it's like I see the way the world is, and I see that it's maybe not their fault in the way that I thought it was, and I see that maybe they just need a little bit more time. Maybe they don't need any time, and they've already shown me who they are, but I want to see if sometimes I just need to dig a little bit deeper. I have patience for that, and I have understanding of people for that. And so I'm going to look at people for a second try. But I'm also just gonna move on with my life too. Like, I'm not in their paused waiting room during this whole ghost stalemate situation, because I don't know how long the ghosting will last, like once the communication with these ghosties will go away. It's like a pattern that they just do, right? I can't really like fix them. I don't really want to fix them. And so it can be really like frustrating to deal with somebody that communicates this way or interacts with somebody this way, even if you've actually broken the pattern a little bit with your actual vulnerable communication and clear communication. Like, it still is a pattern from them. Like, it's still them. I don't know. I'm just trying to be more aware of things, and I'm trying to be more understanding when I think I need to be more understanding, and then to be more cutthroat when I think I need to be more cutthroat. Like, I need to have a cutoff point for these ghosts. They'll just come and go as they please and, you know, disrespect my time. So I need to just understand how things are working, and if they're not ever going to work towards something that would be fun or enjoyable for me, then just kind of release them back into the wild and let them go somebody else. So that's where I am with that process. But I wanted to explain it because it's like very difficult to like make videos and like you seem like you're going back on your word, when it's just like an evolution of a thought process, and I just happen to share it with you, you know, at this point in time right now that you're seeing this. And so it can look a little bit like psychotic, really. It can look to like somebody from the outside world, but like if you really think about it, it's almost like when you're talking about something with, you know, your friends. Just because it's in a video, it's like a timestamp, it's like forever. It just feels like this is more locked in, when it's really not. It's like a moving part, and I'm just trying to explain to you what I know now. And I think I wanted to explain to you that this is very much like that. And you as a viewer needed to know that, because I feel like you could get, as a viewer, you could get like disappointed with where I'm going with things if you don't know that it's a work in progress, right? And like, I don't much care that you're disappointed. Like, I care if I'm disappointed, but I don't want you to view my things as advice. I don't want you to view my things as this is how you should act. And I don't want you to view my things as this is what you should do with yourself. I want to really hit home that I'm just kind of talking here, and I'm just kind of sharing with you the evolution of my thought, and I thought that that was important to explain. So as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for listening, and I really appreciate you being here and enjoying this experience with me, hopefully. And I will see you again next Friday with something probably similar but slightly different. So I hope that you have a great weekend, and I will see you again soon.